That means we're now live for the Auki Labs Open House, I think. Yes, boom, look at that. And I should be able to share this link also in the chat. Should have connected two screens to this. Oh, hey Halb, I see your message now. Here's the link to the actual live stream. Skoda also wrote, also can't talk. Alright. So we have people here. And I guess we could just start talking. Why don't we start, JB? If I can wolf down some food. You explain what it is you do at Auki Labs. You're the head of applications.
Yeah.
You're working on a project codenamed McKenna.
Yeah.
What's McKenna about? Can people hear JB okay? If JB says stuff?
Can you guys hear me?
Let's see in the chat if people can hear JB.
I can hear you.
Oh, there's Kren. Hey Kren, how you doing?
Mine's working out. I'm great.
Happy to hear.
Nice.
Happy Saturday.
Yeah, nice to have you here,
Saturday.
Jonathan. Yeah, so I'm JB, or Jonathan. I'm head of applications at Auki. And yeah, we're working on this little project codenamed McKenna, as you said. And it's basically, we want to spur the development of, we want to spur the ecosystem. So to do that, we figure out what is the most useful thing we can do without going into AAA game territory and having all of that stuff. So we're building a open source code base that anyone can eventually use to build their own version if they feel like they can do it better. Great, that's what we want. But to spur the development on the ecosystem, we're trying to develop a spatial annotation app.
Spatial annotations.
Yeah.
So I know some of the guys in the chat here have already seen it. You place text labels. We put a video on our Twitter just the other day of moving the text labels with your hand,
Yeah.
which is a surprisingly hard feature to get done. At the end of the day, a very big portion of our money has gone towards this feature because we have to do the hand reconstruction from only a single RGB feed.
Yeah.
Meaning the device has no idea of depth.
Yeah, it has to use a lot of AI to try to figure out the distance, that the hand is actually in front of you, because you can't use stereoscopic like we do normally with our eyes. So yeah, that was a really hard feature that I know that we worked a lot on. But the good thing is that it's kind of universal. I mean, moving notes around, that's the tiniest application of it, what it's going to be used for. So
It feels really gratifying to move a virtual thing around. It makes it feel so real. I remember writing in the chat that I picked a digital flower today, because that's what it felt like, just picking up that little thing, moving it around. It was really cool. Maybe I can share the link to that video again in our chat. Twitter. See if we can pull this link.
yeah, I mean, there's levels to augmented reality, really. One is seeing a digital object in real world, on your desk. That is one level.
Yes.
And interacting with it, it becomes something else. It becomes real. The next part, I guess, is sensing it. So haptic gloves, smelling it. Maybe you don't want that.
Maybe not. Maybe smell is one of the things people want to leave behind.
Yeah.
See, I got the link here to the tweet. Gotta find the right Discord. JB is a bit hard to hear at times. Alright, sorry about that. I'll make more room for JB.
I am also really quiet.
That is also a thing. Quiet Scandinavians.
Yeah. But yeah, that demo there, Nils forced me to share it with him because I shared it, and he's like, "Can I borrow your phone?" Oh, yeah, okay. But yeah, that was made like mostly by Romy. I just guided the structure and like the features and stuff.
Oh, is Romy on the call today? That would be awesome. Probably not. Probably
no,
not.
I think he's off on holiday. So.
Yeah, Romy is a cool guy though.
Yeah. We have a lot of really talented people in the team.
It's been, here's Doogie also, and Tracy, great, hi friends. It's been a challenge scaling up the team, definitely. Like a year and a half ago, when we invented the instant calibration, we were like 2.5 to 4 people, depending on where exactly you draw the line. And now between Auki and Matterless, we're pushing 60. Auki just passed 30 people. And we work remotely, which I think a lot of people in the chat can relate to, because everyone here with a cute little shark picture is from a community called BVV, who together actually form one of our largest investors.
Okay, cool.
It's the one crypto community I actually unironically hang out in at times. So, hi sharks. Speaking of sharks, did you see what happened with Kevin O'Leary?
No.
So, you know Shark Tank, the TV show.
Yeah.
So one of the investors on Shark Tank is Kevin O'Leary. And Kevin O'Leary was a paid spokesperson and
FTX.
investor in FTX.
Oh yeah, I think I saw a glimpse of this, yeah.
And he, of course, sells himself as a billionaire. Because, like, why wouldn't he? He's there next to Mark Cuban, so he would want to be a billionaire. But some expose was launched yesterday or today, basically going through like forensic accounting, like, okay, let's go through Kevin O'Leary's history. How much did he get for this acquisition? How much did he get for this? And it's like, there's no way he's a billionaire. He only plays one on TV. I thought that was so so scathing. Kevin O'Leary is not a billionaire, he just plays one on TV.
Yeah. But I also saw some, I don't know if it was like an official interview with him and a bunch of other people where he's like, well, Binance, there was nothing wrong with FTX. There's Binance, everything was Binance. I'm like, sure, of course you would think that.
Yeah, they would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those pesky kids.
Yeah, those pesky Binance.
He did, Skodo. But I mean, my take on the crypto space in general is that due diligence is not considered necessary. There's a lot of friend deals. There's a lot of just getting in early enough that the terms don't really matter. I spoke to one investor who we ended up not inviting on our cap table, who basically said that he had made money on all of his investments and typically the money back within 6 months. And like in a bull market, when it is that easy to make money because you've got all those inside connections and you're buying private sales way below what the public sale is going to be at, why bother doing?
It's almost like they're on the inside.
Yes. I heard another argument that was more compelling before the market crashed, and that was that Tiger, which is a hedge fund, they started investing in startups, and they were investing like one startup per day. So clearly, like, not very much due diligence. But the argument they made is that the cost of doing due diligence, they argued at the time, does not sufficiently increase the likelihood of success or actually reduce the risk, that it's more efficient to just do more deals at a reasonable check size. So they just cookie cutter invested in broad trends instead. It's like, oh, these are guys doing this thing. We believe in this thing, so we'll invest in these guys too. And for a while they were doing really hot, but now not so much. Let's see what Doogie's saying. Yeah, things are paid circle jerks. It's really sad because I know there's a lot of really well-meaning people in the crypto community, I don't want to say a majority because I don't know that that's true, but I've definitely come across very well-meaning people in the crypto community that are interested in this for political reasons, ideological reasons. But then, there's also, it seems like for every one of those, there's 4 people just like when Moon, when Lambo.
Yeah, line go up.
Yeah. You hold some crypto, JB.
Yeah.
How many different cryptos do you hold?
Just one.
Just one.
Yeah,
Then
Bitcoin.
I hold more than you.
OG, yeah. Crypto, yeah.
I once bought $1,000 of Bitcoin, and I guess like twice the price it is now. And said I won't touch it for 3 years, so I don't even look. I also bought $1,000 of Ethereum, and then $500 each of Cardano and ICP. Cardano was my first one.
Yeah, me and a couple of friends were really big into Bitcoin when it first started off. But we even bought miners to mine in my friend's college dorm room because the electricity was free. So
I remember vaguely you telling me about crypto when you were new in Train Tracks, our old startup.
Yeah.
And Ryan and I I don't know.
Never gonna happen. It's not a thing. I'm like, yeah, it is. But after that, I sort of like that. It just happens. So many things happen in crypto. Like I couldn't keep up. I was developing stuff. I didn't have the bandwidth to keep up with all the new coins and everything happening. It's like, yeah, you read a bit about like Ethereum. That's cool. Yeah, but I sort of got disconnected there for a while.
But yeah, if memory serves me right, you were pushing Bitcoin on me in 2014 or 2015?
15 it had to be.
2015.
Or, yeah, 2015 or 2016. I think 2015.
It was definitely before 2017, which is like,
Yes.
people that consider themselves like really OG will often tell me like, oh, we've been investing since 2017. During the bull run, there were even people who'd be like, oh, we've been investing since 2020. Like that was,
Wow.
like that was more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Like I really believed in the concept. I still believe in the concepts of crypto, but yeah, lately it's been, like you said, not everything is like a scam, but like Dink Doink or whatever the Logan Paul coin. I watched another video from CoffeeZilla
This morning on the Crypto Zoo.
Yeah.
Great video.
Yeah, he
CoffeeZilla
does great investigations into crypto. It's just like it feels like there's so many things that people are just like, oh, we're gonna do this, and people are like, that sounds kind of dumb, and they're like, but it's crypto, and then people are like, oh shit, like without even thinking about like what does it mean, why would you do this, like no reason.
Someone else did it and it made money, let's copy paste.
Yeah.
I think approaching having a token from, I had obviously less crypto experience than you. The first 6 months, it was very hard to like find a good advisor that you can trust. It's kind of similar to how, as a rather non-technical founder, how do you find a technical founder that you can really trust? And then we have the same issue all over again, like, okay, how do we find a crypto advisor that we can really trust? And like, I think we did more due diligence on Outlier Ventures than a bunch of, Outlier did a lot of due diligence on us. I'm not gonna knock them, but there are certainly people on our cap table that did absolutely no due diligence. I know, because like occasionally we'll get a question that like shows me that they don't even have a copy of the SAFT anymore. Like they're in disarray because it was the Wild West.
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't worry about it. We can send you a copy of the SAFT.
It's like, we actually thought about this. Don't worry.
I'm kind of hoping that in this bear market there will be a handful or even just half a handful of projects that are building something where the token is not the center of the thing and play to earn is not the center of the thing, but they're building something that would have been valuable without blockchain, but now it's even better because of blockchain.
Yes, that is what it's supposed to be. Like, the blockchain is not supposed to be the thing. It's supposed to like improve the thing in trademark. Just like, it's not the core. It's supposed to be what enables it to be more efficient, or to be more decentralized, to be more democratized, or to be like a better version, not the thing.
Auki is the thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I was like, before I joined, I was like, I don't know, there's a lot of crypto token, but when you explained it, it was like, yeah, makes sense.
Do you think you could retell it?
Probably, yeah. I mean, from my point of view, I'm approaching it more from a technical aspect. It's just like, okay, we don't want to build all the infrastructure for payments in countries that don't have access to like Stripe or PayPal, and also they have a bunch of like fees associating with them, and we just want to leverage the existing ecosystem of exchanges so that people can like convert between different things. Yeah, that for me, that makes the most amount of sense.
To me, what the kicker was, actually before I get into the kicker, I'm going to put my bowl away so I can stop being rude and eating in front of you guys, and then let's read the comments.
Yeah.
Then let's talk about effective altruism. No, sorry. Alright, so let's see what Doogie's saying. Doogie says, it's very sad, man, but yeah, this applies to so much, not just Web 3, not just Web 2. In Canada, through FOIA requests, we've seen that certain policies during the pandemic were made for political reasons, and there are email threads where they look for science to justify their actions. Yeah, I think we all do that all the time. I think that's part of the human experience, you know. Hop on Google to find something that supports our opinion. After already deciding their actions, and to create the science when it does not exist, all after already deciding which policies to enact. Yeah, I do think a lot of that is becoming transparent. When the world changes so fast that you don't have time to legislate in like normal fashions, of course you're gonna be scrambling for things to support your argument. Doogie continues, Elon Musk is a perfect example of this. Cybertruck, SpaceX, Boring Company, Hyperloop. Kevin O'Leary is another. He parades as a billionaire, it's not even close. Bill Gates is another, is not a developer. Bought DOS, didn't build it, and had an entire... I didn't know that.
Did you? He bought it for like 50k USD.
I did not know that, man. Okay. I have a memory of Bill Gates from my childhood. My mom told me on the news that like, oh, Bill Gates makes his children pay for their own toilet paper.
Of course he would. That's on brand.
This is the reason I am really attracted to Auki. Thank you, I'm attracted to you. They've built quite a bit already. Thanks for recognizing that. And there's no need to imagine what it is because you're already capable of seeing the product. Yeah. It's funny because the whole thing is about making things visible. You know, so I gotta start by making things visible. Skodo says, people getting baited by the fallacy that others will buy the Logan Paul projects. They will profit of the Logan Paul fan stupidity. Is a little funny.
It's like they're just trying to time the market, like to get in and get out before the really stupid people get in.
But I think that's just saying the quiet part out loud for many people. You know, like I met an investor. He's not one of ours. He passed on our round. And I haven't spoken to him for like a year. And of course, a lot of people here in Hong Kong got hit pretty bad by both Luna and FTX because Hong Kong has very strong ties to both of those ecosystems. So of course I asked, you know, like, hey, how are you doing? Did you lose anything? It's like, oh, I didn't really have any FTX exposure and I made a lot of money on Luna, so all's good. And I thought to myself at that moment, I don't know if I would feel good about having made money on Luna. because all that it means is like, yeah, I got out in time. I sold to people that didn't know better. It wasn't that the company got successful. It's just like, yeah, I put money into something that didn't work, and I made money off of it.
It is like hearing bankers like being proud that they like, well, I profited from the 2008 like housing market. I was like, oh, did you? A lot of people lost their houses and stuff. Like, that's not.
But I do think that a lot of the people with a lot of money in crypto just have these quiet parts that they don't say out loud, where they kind of know what the playbook is. I had another investor. It's very funny. We were at a party, and I met up with a guy that is on our cap table. His partner invested in us. I've met this guy once before at an event, so like we don't have a very close relationship, but we've met before, and it turned out that like he didn't recognize me. So we're off to a little bit of an awkward start in the conversation to begin with, and I show him the latest demo. So like, hey, don't worry about it. You're on our cap table, no matter if you recognize me or not. We're doing great. And it's like, oh, let me show you a demo of this other thing that I invested in. And he starts pulling it up, he starts clicking around, and then he like looks up in the air and is, you know what, never mind. They're really focused on marketplace and stuff right now. And I think that's what a lot of companies do. They focus on the marketplace first, and there's not that much to actually show. I think when he realized that the only thing he can show me is the marketplace, and that I must have seen like 1,000 marketplaces by now. Yeah.
That's what I like about building an actual product.
Guys, feel free to unmute, ask questions if you want. Otherwise, we're just gonna sit here, eat nuts, drink water, hang out, talk smack. We are your hostages here for a while, so anything you want to know or you're curious about, we're here. That's your glass. We can do like some ASMR here with pouring water.
That's just gonna make everyone go to the bathroom.
Everyone has to go to the bathroom. We have the relaxing music and the water sounds.
Yeah. Let me know if I need to move closer to the mic.
I think you just need to move closer to me.
Yeah, that's another option.
So, JB and I, we worked together at a startup together like 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
Back when we were young and pretty, we were working on real-time analysis of big data. We learned a lot from that. I often comment that it's interesting because visibly what we are building now is augmented reality. But very few people of our core team actually have augmented reality as their background.
Yeah.
Of course, there's Jose that has done some really cool stuff, but a lot of the other core people in the team have backgrounds in distributed systems, scalability, these kinds of things. Which is also why I think we gravitated towards let's build a protocol.
Yeah, the thing that people don't realize is like building AR, at least shared AR, is not about building the SLAM or anything like that. It's like building the network infrastructure to be able to do it. That's the hard part, because SLAM, Apple and Google are going to do that. They're going to do it well. They have their own like internal system. That's all fine and dandy. But like having the actual servers in place and the infrastructure and like the messaging protocol, that was the hard part.
All right. Injustice, otherwise I don't understand. Only in the sense that children don't really know better, right? But adults should. Please elaborate if possible. Here's a hot take from me. I don't think adults should have to know better. Gonna come out as a Swedish socialist here and say that I think that one of the benefits of living in a civilization, one of the benefits of living in a village versus living alone in the forest, is that you don't have to know everything, you don't have to be good at everything. We decide to take care of each other and protect each other. And I do not believe that everybody is a little thief deep down inside. I do not believe that opportunity makes the thief. I believe that opportunities will reveal thieves, but they won't turn just anybody into a thief. Of course, there's the opposite of opportunity. There are dire circumstances that could turn even good people into thieves. But not everyone will do what Sam Bankman-Fried did. And my hot take is that some people are just not raised right. Their heart's not set straight. They are, for whatever reason, they are predatory. They don't feel bad about lying. They don't feel bad about stealing. They'll do it if they get away with it. And one of the big challenges of building a civilization is to not cater to them. And when I hear that adults should know better, to me, that's ceding ground to the predators. That's like saying, well, you have to lock your door. I don't think we should have to lock our door. I think we should recognize that it's fucked up that we have to lock our doors. I think we should recognize that it's fucked up if women can't walk home alone at night. People, of course, it's helpful to know better. I'm not going to argue that it's very helpful to know better, or in my case, just be too scared to invest in anything. Like, I don't even know better. I'm just too scared to get involved with anything like that. But there are these two memes in crypto. One is this, self-custody. You have to take responsibility for yourself. This radical self-reliance that comes from some of the libertarian parts of crypto that I don't really personally resonate with. Like, intellectually I get it, but emotionally it doesn't sit quite right with me. And the other is the idea of trustlessness, that we should build our society around trustless systems. But to me, that also is ceding ground to the predators. I actually think it's meaningful to build systems of trust, to allow people to demonstrate visibly that they are trustworthy actors. The conversation's continuing here.
Yeah.
Justice that the people trying to be big brain and front run the kids once Logan was meant to start advertising this crypto super got wrecked.
Hello.
I mean, oh yeah, we have someone commenting.
Yeah, it's me. It's Doogie.
Doogie, how you doing?
Hey man, I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
We're doing great, as you can tell.
Yeah, it's a pretty entertaining chat. One thing I just wanted to say was, like, I agree with what you're saying. Whenever you're in a village, that there's certain things that can be offset, I guess, or understood by an expert, right? So then not everybody has to understand this concept. But I also think there's like the basics of self-preservation and learning. Like, for example, I agree for example that you should not need to lock your doors. That's more a problem with like kind of current society and how a lot of, or not a lot of people, but how some people think, right? I mean, me where I'm from, I can attest that most of my neighbors, I don't need to lock my doors for them. It's maybe for one person out of the 1,000, right? But for example, we also live in a world where there are other natural forces. Like, I do think that adults should know essentially basics of psychology and certain things that I guess you could attribute to common sense. And one example I was thinking of whenever you were speaking was, say you live in a jungle or somewhere where there's wild animals. Well, you should have a basic, and everybody should have a basic understanding that, that's a bear or that's a lion. I shouldn't approach that animal because it's dangerous or something can result out of it,
You're right, of course. I think where the tension is for me is, like, I recognize that you should know what a bear is, but I don't want the response when someone gets mauled by a bear to just be like, well, it's a bear, what do you expect? Like, it's still a tragedy when people get mauled by bears.
Oh, yes.
And if we decide
Of
that
course,
the bears
of
are
course.
actually okay to live with us, and they can have their own YouTube channels, and we're supposed to pretend that everyone is a little bit of a bear on the inside, that's where the crypto community loses me.
Okay. Okay,
Like, I
understand
recognize
what
that
you're
there are predators, and when we find them, we should, we should stop hanging out with them. We should stop doing business with them. We should stop.
I 100% agree. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think, whenever you kind of find people like this, it's good to kind of expose them and use them as kind of a case study. Like, this is how he got so big, or this is how he gained such necessarily power, but influence over a community, right? And I think a lot can be learned by observing these people, like especially the example I gave of Bill Gates, because a lot of people think that, because he donates for health causes, that essentially he's a good person and he can do no wrong. But actually, when you look deeper, it makes a lot of sense to why he donates to health initiatives. He essentially gains influence over these health initiatives, and not only are a lot of these health initiatives doing negative things, but the ultimate and the most simple thing that you can see from it is that he gains financially for every dollar that he puts in for these health initiatives, such as Gavi, or I think it's SEPI, I'm not sure. But anyways, he funds a lot of these nonprofits, and on the other end, it benefits his companies where he has major holdings, right?
I think in the society we live in, like we live under capitalism, which is both great and problematic. Like, it does a lot of very fantastic things for us, but it also does a few things that are not great, that we wouldn't design into our society if we had the option to design our society. And I think one of the things that capitalism does to our consciousness is it never makes us stop and ask what money really is, right? What does it mean to have money? What role should money play in your life? And one of the things that I've realized is people can have a relationship to money the same way that obese people can have an unhealthy relationship to food. There is such a thing as too much money. Unironically, there is such a thing as too much money. And if you find yourself a billionaire, you've just eaten yourself really fucking fat monetarily. And it's not good for you, it's not good for your soul, it's probably not improving your life, and it's definitely making the life around you worse. And if you were really connected and grounded, if you had eaten just 1 more gram of mushrooms, maybe you wouldn't have become a billionaire. Maybe you would have built something instead. Because this is the thing, right? I don't think you become a billionaire by relentlessly building. You become a billionaire by relentlessly capturing the value of what other people are building.
I agree with that, yeah.
You leaking out.
But I mean, okay, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue this, because I think fundamentally you're right. It just depends on, like, well, $1 billion in net worth is not $1 billion in cash at hand, right?
Yeah, no, that absolutely. But I mean, if you have $1 billion of somewhat liquid assets,
yeah, you should use that to improve the world.
Yeah, you should. Like, a thing that fucks with my mind about Jeff Bezos is, in English we say Jeff Bezos went to space. But that's not at all what happened. What happened was a bunch of really smart people that know how to build rockets accepted money to send a sociopath into space. This is actually really fucking shameful. I wish to have an opportunity one day to sit around a bonfire with a joint or some mushrooms and talk to the lead engineers at Jeff Bezos' space company and just be like, why are you doing this? Why are you spending your life accepting money to send a psychopath into space? Why is this your life's calling? Do you need this much money? Couldn't you be building rockets for other people?
Maybe they hoped that he would stay up there.
Maybe they hoped that he would stay up there.
No, but it's like yeah, Jeff Bezos in particular to me is just the way he treats his like the actual workers in the dispatch centers is just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
How do you not feel bad about that? But that's the Sweden me leaking out. Like, how do you not want your workers to have it better? He's actively trying to make it worse.
I feel like my impulse would be that, you know, if you work here with us, your life's gonna be way more awesome than other people's life.
Yeah.
But maybe that's some insecurity in me. I don't know. Maybe, you know, if Jeff Bezos was my business mentor, he would just be like, you're weak. This is weakness.
Maybe.
But yeah, like, I don't know what life is about.
Yeah.
Sorry, Doogie?
No. Yeah, no problem. I think, yeah, like whenever you assign everything to a profit margin, right? You kind of miss out, because I think, you know, a happy employee will produce a lot more than a completely unhappy employee that is essentially on a clock for everything he does and has quotas to meet, right?
I think so too. You should make your colleagues happy, because if you're a hard worker, you're going to be spending a lot of your life with those people, and you'll be building things together that hopefully you care about, and their happiness is going to leak into the thing that you're building.
No, I completely agree with that.
Poor engineering decisions from people phoning it in because they don't feel connected to what they're building. I mean, technical debt is, to some extent, in one dimension, is a propaganda debt, right? Do you see what I mean? Maybe that's not the best wording, but you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Technical debt is to some extent like, okay, the person who wrote this did not feel strongly enough about what this person was building, perhaps because they didn't understand what it was for, why it matters, and I believe that in the long run you can solve a lot of bugs by keeping your engineers happy.
Yes, but that can also come like if, for example, technical debt can build out of like different angles, right? It can build from not caring about the product. It can build from not understanding the product, but it can also build from pressures of someone wanting something done now from the
I'm
top.
not gonna recognize this at all.
No,
Don't know what you're talking about. No.
So you need to make some compromises sometimes, but that's the way it is.
I see how theoretically maybe that could happen.
I'm just saying.
Probably never in practice.
No, this is a pure hypothetical.
Pure hypothetical. Yes, management are never asking for things on a very short timeline. Oops. We're gonna, I wonder if Scalene is here. We need to figure out a cool way to, actually, since there's not so many of us, we don't have to raffle anything. Here's what I'm gonna do. If you want an Auki t-shirt, because there's not that many of you here, send me a message with your name, address, and size, and you just won yourself an Auki t-shirt. Congratulations. My DMs are open.
Nice.
In this raffle,
Nice.
Everybody wins. You all win. Everybody's under your seat, and under your seat.
You get an Auki t-shirt. You get an Auki.
Yeah, just DM me. Oh, here we go. I need a name and an address. Doogie lives in 1sec, that's where I live too.
Don't dox him.
It's cool now. Elon says we can do it.
Did you hear he unbanned all the journalists he banned?
No, I did not hear that.
Yeah, because he made a Twitter poll, and like overwhelmingly everybody said like unban right now. And
Okay.
he's like, okay.
All right. How do you feel about that?
I feel that's good, but I think that he was hoping, because like there were, I think, 3 options to the poll. It was like unban right away, unban in 7 days, and unban in longer or something. And yeah, I think, I mean, if the people want it, then yeah, he should unban them if he claims to do. Like, why even make the poll? Like, he could have just not made the poll. So I feel like that's...
When will things be put up to a poll?
Yeah, that's...
I feel that Elon is now the king of Twitter. It's like I said to Sean from These Guys community, right? Twitter's power has not dissipated; it has just changed hands. So if you were worried about Twitter having too much power before, you should still be worried about that if it is truly ideological and not just, rooting for your side to win.
Yeah.
Because Twitter is just as powerful as it was before. Arguably, it's more powerful now because now it has this new thing where there's a king that makes decisions instead of whatever flawed process there was before.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, for any Elon fanboy out there, I'm not saying that Elon is necessarily going to do a worse job or anything. I'm just saying the power in Twitter has not disappeared. It has just changed hands. That's the observation I'm making, which is hopefully not controversial.
I actually completely agree with that. And one thing that I want to touch on is what we were talking about earlier with these charlatans, right? Like, I have nothing against Elon personally, but I just kind of look at what people say and then I take note of their actions, right? So essentially he said that it was going to be a free speech platform, but I've seen countless examples where he suspends permanently the accounts of people that speak negatively of him. And these are people with large followings, right? Like, if you're a regular Joe and you say something bad about him, well, he doesn't even see it. But a lot of major accounts, and now I guess he did a big purge where he purged a lot of journalists that were writing about him. For me, it's like free speech is literally the ability to say what you want with proof or without proof. And of course that can be dangerous, but the issue is somebody is assigned as the arbiter of what can be said and what can't be said, and that creates a very dangerous environment, right? And for example, I seen a tweet, it was by David Icke, who's like known as a conspiracy theorist, and he was just criticizing Elon.
He's the lizard people guy, right? David Icke is the lizard people guy.
Exactly. And like, I don't believe in lizard people, right? But I believe in his right to speak about that or to criticize Elon. And even if I'd even have nothing negative to say about Elon if he was banning people that are against him, if he didn't preach that it was going to be a free speech platform. But it seems like he's kind of trying to leverage that it's going to be a free speech platform, but picking and choosing who can say what, that's quite literally the opposite.
I mean, we all do it, and I'm gonna fire a shot at the VVV community here now too, because I was invited to their Twitter space, and one of the things that you guys told me, not you Doogie, but the VVV guys, is like, maybe we won't do it on Twitter because Twitter censors, and I'm not allowed to say bullshit on your server, right? This is hypocrisy. I'm not allowed to say bullshit. I'm not allowed to use naughty words. And yes, I know there's a difference between like cleaning, or that you think there's a difference between asking people to use nice language versus censoring ideas. But I don't buy it. I think that's massive hypocrisy. And if you're gonna talk shit about Twitter censoring people, you should allow me to say bullshit on your server.
I completely agree with what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, you, and it's kind of hard to explain to somebody that thinks differently. But yeah, free speech is literally the ability to say whatever. There's no coercion of modified speech. So like you're saying that in the VVV is that what it's called?
Yeah, they are
But,
really cool
yeah.
people, by the way. I just think that I'm gonna lovingly disagree and call hypocrisy on the censorship policy there.
Yeah, I for sure agree, and I'm sure they're cool, but yeah, like you can't really have it both ways. And I find actually with quite a few issues, people kind of take a side and they say, "Oh, we're not like this," but then they're doing the same thing just in a different manner. And of course, this isn't like on their own server. It's nothing too major, but yeah, I think it's kind of funny that they're saying, "Oh, let's not use Twitter because they're censored," and they have rules about what people can and can't say on their own server. I think that's really funny.
I think because ultimately people have a hope that Twitter will be a public space, and this Discord or VVV's Discord are not public spaces, they're private spaces. Mm-hmm. And I can believe in free speech in the city square, but you're not allowed to talk shit about my wife in my home. Like I get that. But also, should we then have a government-run Twitter, comrades? Shall we nationalize Twitter, comrades? Because otherwise, like, is Twitter not also a private space? Are they not also a private company? I remember back when we lived in Beijing, the argument was completely reversed.
Yes.
It was the left that was worried
indeed.
about Twitter and Facebook, and the right was like, yeah, they're private companies, cry more about it.
Yeah, I mean, they flip depending on what they want. Like, if their side is winning, then it's fine. But if the other guy is winning, then it's not fine. Then it's something totally needs to be done. It is. I mean, yeah.
And that's kind of what I was saying. Like they'll do pretty much the same thing that they're against, but as long as it benefits them, they're kind of like, we're not doing this or we're not doing that, and it's kind of. There's no words for me to explain that. I need to look up in the dictionary to find the proper word, but it's just so funny. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
We have to get off the polarization treadmill. Tracy asked about that. Tracy says, I have not been keeping up with Twitter drama too much. Is there any indication Elon wants to make the algorithms less polarizing? As our resident Elon apologist, do you believe Elon wants to make Twitter less polarizing?
No, I don't think he necessarily wants to make it less polarizing. But if you were to believe him, like I'm having doubts lately, like because he's made some statement that's just like, why even lie about that? That's such a pointless fucking lie. But I think if he were to make them open, like this is how they work. Yes, they have a bias towards this or this and this, but like you can see it. Here is the thing. That could help somewhat in like instilling some confidence, because I think maybe you can tell that I'm a bit quiet in this discussion because I think like everything, it's very complicated, and I never do online streams. I never voice my opinion online because I think it's very complicated.
It is complicated.
Like, and I don't know the answer. I don't want to, as an engineer, I don't want to spout something if I'm not sure that it's like correct and thought through. But it's I think polarization is always going to be there. I think it's only getting worse, but I think maybe there can be more understanding if like the policies that govern Twitter are more transparent and open, because before they were very opaque. Like someone got banned for this, another person did the exact same thing, changed a word, but the meaning is exactly the same. They did not get banned. Why? Okay, just be open with what you're doing, and I think people will be like far less like attacking and trying to like say like, look, they're censoring us because of this. Like, no, actually it's because of this other pretty reasonable thing, but you don't want to hear it because you don't know about it.
This makes me think of StarCraft 2.
Go on.
This will sound like it's a leap, but okay. StarCraft 2, for those who play StarCraft, there's a concept called the metagame, right? And the metagame are not the rules as programmed into the game, they are the rules as programmed by the culture of people playing it. There's nothing in the code of StarCraft that says that you have to build a barracks in the first 10 minutes, but culture makes it so. This is the metagame, right? And StarCraft 2 is one of the most well-balanced games ever. And they did that by constantly rebalancing. They realized that the metagame would always be more powerful than they are as programmers. The culture would always evolve towards some kind of local maximum. And when that happens, they would typically cull that maximum or allow for some other valley of behavior to emerge by lowering the cost of something or increasing the cost of something. And they did this very rapidly. By contrast, Warhammer, they update their rules in like printed issues and stuff. So like the cycle there is much worse. One of the things that made StarCraft very well balanced was that they stopped a metagame from forming. I bring this up because if you publish how the algorithm of Twitter works, then I think it will get gamed very, very quickly. And that will probably create some kind of new noise that we can't quite predict yet. But I have a hard time imagining that the outcome of this would be like, oh yeah, great, we publish, we make everyone know how the algorithm works, and now somehow our feed doesn't get fucked. I think there's a great likelihood that version 1 is fucked.
Yeah, probably. But like, you have to also ask, what do you want from Twitter? Twitter in the beginning, I remember the first version of Twitter where you actually sent SMSs to a number to like update. And who did you update? You updated your family and friends.
Yes.
That was what Twitter was for.
Yes.
Like, now it's this huge broadcasting platform.
It's a big ass party.
Yeah.
That we're trying to decide if this party is at someone's house or if it's in a public square.
Yeah, but to me it's like, it's also just mute people that you don't like.
But there's so many people I don't like.
Yeah, but make a block list, make a bot.
Okay, so that's just, okay, crowdsource censorship.
Yeah.
Right? Just
personalize
make censorship hyper local.
No,
bringing us to Hagal.
Yeah, well, like personalize it, because to me, like, I have Twitter. I don't post on it, obviously, but like I have Twitter. I read it. My feed is not fucked. I don't see a bunch of shit that annoys me or that gets me mad. I see news about TypeScript or JavaScript or programming.
Don't you get like crypto spam on your Twitter?
No.
Oh man.
Because I've never tweeted anything about anything.
I made the mistake of checking the interest box NFTs when I created the Auki Labs Twitter account, and oh my god, I'm sorry crypto world, but NFT Twitter is toxic as fuck. I don't know what's happening there. It's like so many bots, so much, everything is like, it's so predictable. You know all the comments that are gonna come. Like, I don't know who reads this. It seems like just a bot desert. NFT Twitter is just a bot desert.
Like, to me, Twitter is almost exactly like Reddit to me, without the links necessarily. Like, it's
Twitter is Reddit.
Yeah, without the links.
I think with what's going on with NFT Twitter, it's like once you see a formula that works for engagement, why change it, right? Like, why fix something that isn't broke if your goal is to get engagement? But yeah, I agree, it's terrible.
So maybe that's what happens if we if Elon publishes, if Twitter publishes, right? If
No,
the
no,
people's
it's Elon
Twitter
pushing the button. So
maybe.
maybe.
If Twitter publishes the rules, then maybe all of Twitter turns into like NFT Twitter, because everyone just starts. If it's true what Doogie is saying, because they found a winning formula, well, that would mean if we publish the winning formula, this is what happens.
Yeah, but also by publishing the winning formula, then you can make more improvements later on.
Oh, Carlo has joined us as well. Hello, Carlo. So we have Carlo and Chen here from the Auki
Hello,
team as
everybody.
well. How's it?
How's it?
Yeah.
Tell us about your views on Niantic.
Come again, Carlo?
Tell us your views on Niantic.
Oh, our views on Niantic.
We have nothing bad to say about Niantic, right, Nils? Right?
I mean, maybe you don't.
A lawyer? No? Okay.
I think, okay, so when we started with Auki Labs, we were, you see these like Warhammer boxes? Like in the very beginning, we were trying to make AR, and to some extent we still are, trying to make AR for the tabletop game Warhammer. That's what we were trying to do, and we realized that it was very hard to do shared AR. And then we lucked out and invented this great thing, the instant calibration, that got us funded. And at that point, all of a sudden, it wasn't quite as stressful as it was when the Warhammer thing was just barely scraping by. There was a wider horizon, if that makes sense. There seemed to be more doors that you could walk through. And in that moment, then it was okay to sit down and start thinking about, okay, so what does augmented reality mean, actually? And even though I didn't think this about AR when I started this company, I think this way about AR now. My thinking is changing as being part of this space. I'm realizing increasingly, and in fact I just fully really believe this now, that augmented reality will replace displays as the main interface for computers in our lifetime for sure. Like,
Did you see the Quest Pro?
I've seen the Quest Pro.
Yeah. The 3 displays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very convenient.
That's the
It's very
only
cool.
like I was like maybe I
Are you gonna
should
try it out?
Maybe. But I don't want to get a Facebook account.
Okay, no, fair. You can borrow mine.
Okay. It was like it's perfect when traveling. Because when you code, you want like big ass screens.
Yeah, and you want to keep your setup.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's
If I
just
could have that on a flight,
Yeah.
my virtual workspace on a flight. Oh, maybe that would be weird actually, because maybe I would be, just waving in front of the other person's
Yeah,
face.
I mean, there's 2 things. Like one is like, oh yeah, just replace the display with 2 smaller displays, but closer to your eyes.
Mm.
But then the other one is like interacting with the operating system. That's still, I mean, Apple probably gonna figure that out. Probably.
I spoke to Alistair Reynolds the other day.
Mm.
So Alistair Reynolds is a science fiction writer. He wrote a science fiction book that I really liked as a teenager. We're gonna get to the Niantic thing, Carlo, we will.
Also, I just want to say, I saw that, like, I'm not saying that opening it up, it probably will open up for gamification and, like, figuring out the formula. More like being open with what they ban, why. Either the reason is Elon was mad at you.
Okay, we're
Or-
back on Elon.
It's just like, just tell people why, so people know. I think that's the best they can do, basically. Okay, go ahead. Alice Reynolds. Sorry.
Alright, so back on the topic of AR will replace displays, or rather, what happens after displays? Here's a space. Alright, so Alistair Reynolds, he wrote this book that I really enjoyed reading when I was a teenager. And in it, there was something called entoptics. This is before the word AR was invented. But what entoptics is in the book is augmented reality, right? It's digital things, virtual things manifested in the world. But Alistair started writing that book already in, I believe, 89. He started writing it a long time ago, and you know, it was published end of the 90s, I believe. And I asked him, you know, how did you arrive at augmented reality or some such? And it turns out what optics mean, like it's a real word, apparently. It's a hallucination that is caused from a mechanism in the eye itself, right? So like a hallucination from the eye, not from the brain, from the eye, is an entoptic, if I've understood it correctly. And what he had imagined is that, okay, it might start with big glasses or something, but the form factor is gonna get smaller, and they'll realize that why be on the outside? Maybe it's more efficient to just make it manifest in their field of view.
Sort of like a neural link.
Sort of like a Neuralink. And Karen shared a link in our Discord today. Did you see it?
No.
Alright, so this is gonna make you excited though.
Okay.
Karen shared a link of a company that is making AR headsets for NASA, for astronauts. They seem to really be overhead displays, which is normally not very exciting then.
No.
Like if it's just a display, not overhead, but a head-worn display. If it's just a head-worn display, if it doesn't do the spatial tracking, it's not that cool. But there's another more than redeeming thing about it. It has an extracortical neural interface. The reason they're putting the glasses on them is to free up their hands, and like it's about the efficiency of the astronaut, right? It's like, okay. And with this extracortical interface, they demoed in the video a subject answering yes to a question just by thinking. That was the only demo. Now, of course, that was probably not free speech. That was a different definition of free speech. That was probably, you know, picking a binary option or something like that. But you don't need a lot of dimensions, you don't need a lot of data to make a truly amazing experience in McKenna. Imagine that you can get a scale from 0 to 1, that is something you can get. Grant me that, right? That could now be mapped to distance from you. So already now you can do something useful with nodes. But if you also can get 2 gradients, if you can manage to do 2 gradients from 0 to 1, you can also map that to up and down. We don't have to capture that the human brain is thinking up and down. We have to see, can we teach a human to control 2 gradients, right? I think the answer is definitely yes. With 2 gradients, we can now move something around in a plane, right? That's pretty nice. But actually, we can, now if you just add 1 binary or a gradient, so like there's a back button and an OK, now we can actually move a cursor around in 3D. Like you don't need a lot for a cursor to be movable in 3D. Why is this interesting? Well, imagine we're wearing a pair of glasses that are perfectly synced, right? And we look out my Hong Kong window right now, and there's a bunch of different buildings, but I say, hey, you see that one? And you immediately know. You immediately know. We have to build that. So I told Scalene to order some of those extracortical interfaces. We have to build that demo.
I'll just add it to the list of Nils demands. I have
By Tuesday, please.
I have an actual list called Nils list of demands.
Yes, there's a file called Nils list of demands.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Doogie, the name of the book is Revelation Space. It's a great book, Revelation Space, by Alistair Reynolds. It is definitely one of the pieces of media that has inspired my thinking on augmented reality. But the biggest one of all is probably Denu Coil, the anime. Did you watch Denu Coil?
No.
Oh my god, you have to watch Denu Coil. You don't have to watch the whole thing, Watch half an episode. Done. You'll get it.
What's the? Can you spell it?
DENNOU. Coil. I recommend this to all of you. You're gonna understand so much what Matterless is about if you check this out. It established an aesthetic. Denu Coil is a somewhat, you know how solar punk is utopian?
Yeah.
Can you imagine like an 80s punk, or just something that like it feels very safely, like it takes place with children. It follows children, and children are wearing AR glasses. Children are wearing AR glasses, and they are encountering digital cats on the street. They're trading in currencies and forming DAOs and stuff. This was written back in 2008. Like, it's very, very much ahead of its time. It's a very cool vision of the future, Denu Coil.
A capitalist Digimon.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
it's really
I'll
cool.
watch it.
And they wear AR glasses, right? It's about the world. What is it like growing up in Japan with the second generation of AR glasses? Like, that's the premise for Denu Coil. Really cool. I have forced everyone at Matterless to watch this. We did 2 watch parties of the first episode. One with the engineers, where we sat down and took notes. Okay, what is that? What was that effect? What is it they're doing, right? To see, like, can we figure out what labor is involved in getting this aesthetic? And then another sit down with the artists to explain from their point of view, what is it? What are these effects? Why are they used this way? What is it that makes this sound match with that thing? Like, we really analyzed it.
Was this in Croatia?
This was in Croatia. Yeah, we did this while I was in Croatia. It's fantastic. If we wouldn't get in trouble for it, I would just put it on right now, because it's really, really good. I probably could show clips, but I'm not competent enough with OBS to attempt that, so I'm not gonna try.
Yeah, we'll have another.
Yeah,
another
next
live
time
stream. Yeah.
we'll be ready to show YouTube videos. In fact, one idea I had for this open house, a format that we could do, is to invite nerds to talk about their thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, here's an episode on whatever, calligraphy. Here's an episode on painting Warhammer. Here's an episode on, just like, let a nerd explain something that they really like. I would enjoy that. That's a podcast I would listen to. Just be exposed to something from someone. Yeah.
I mean, I can talk for 5 hours about why React is the superior UI rendering tool.
Okay, why is React the superior UI rendering tool, and what is its competition? If I disagreed with you, what would I be in favor of?
I mean, you can disagree on a lot of different stuff. Like, you can disagree on, like, performance-wise. I just think conceptually, like, so React is basically the view that a user interface is like the function of state, the function of data.
Okay.
That is the most high-level way.
A
to
user
think.
interface is function of state.
Yes.
So the application has a state. A function of that state is the user interface.
Yes. So if the state changes to say, like, modal dialog open true, you just pass that through the function, and that open, like, that reflects in the UI that the modal is now open.
Yes.
So that is the basic premise of React. That's the thought. And then you have the, like, so if you think of it as a function of state, we're not going to turn this entire hour into this, but
we can. No one's stopping us.
yeah, but maybe it's not that interesting to listen to. But
I'm enjoying it so far.
okay, so if you think about that, that means that every change you do is going to run through this cycle, like the entire thing. So a function is composed of functions. It's composed of functions. So that describes your entire UI tree, basically.
Tree.
So that,
yes.
Yeah. So that means that you have this one-directional data flow. So if you change something, you have the state at the top. Like, this is not actually how it's done, but this is how you conceptually think of it. You have your state at the top. You change something. It triggers every function in that tree to re-render or to re-evaluate.
Okay.
Everything. So you click a button down here, changes the state, it trickles down. So you just think about your UI as a function of the state. So practically that's not what happened. It does optimizations to figure out like, oh, only this part re-renders, so update the DOM or the native view in a certain way. So it does optimizations, but it is the correct way to think of it because it simplifies. Before you had like,
It's a good abstraction.
yes, you had before what you would probably, if you said like, no, that's incorrect, first you would be wrong, but then you would have to have like two-way bindings.
So what is the benefit of thinking in this abstraction?
It simplifies a lot of stuff. Like it simplifies, for example, another way to code user interfaces is using like two-way bindings or a model view controller type pattern, which is basically if you have like an input box, for example, and that corresponds to a variable in your code, and when you type in your input box, that variable gets automatically updated. Say that variable is used in some other place, you need to like somehow keep everything in sync, which means that you have a lot of ways that a UI can get into a state that is really hard to reproduce. So if you find a bug in your program, it's like, okay, was it because I changed this value to true before I inputted this number?
I see.
Because that affected this thing over here. With the function as a state, it's just like, oh, this was the state at this time, and I saw this bug. I can just dump that state, take that state, okay, reproduce the bug, fix it. Now I know that it won't happen again.
Does that realization help you write better code even when you're not in React?
Yes.
How so?
It helps to think more functionally than like object-oriented, because object-oriented is a lot of like instantiating objects, and they live their little lives, and they should encompass.
Explain the difference between functional and object-oriented to a novice.
Okay, to a novice. Object-oriented is a way of thinking. Well, I shouldn't say object-oriented as it is practiced today. Like the original concept of object orientation is actually taken from biology by Alan Kay. Like you send messages to objects and they respond, but that's not what object orientation became in languages like Java or like C# or C++.
What did it turn into?
It turned into a fucking mess.
Okay, how so?
You can do it well, but most of the time you're not going to, because you're gonna make like a person object, or no, even like a human object, that then a person, let's see, better analogy, like entity, and then that's a person, and then also a male or a female or a non-binary if you want to go that way. Like, okay, so you inherit these things and you want to attach some like aspect to it, so all the different types of person or human can actually like speak, but only, I'm going to be controversial here, only one of them can give birth, for example. So you attach giving birth to the female one and not to the male one, etc., etc.
It's very artful to turn a programming lecture into something political.
Okay, but it's
well
really,
done, sir.
It's hard to explain, but most of the time when you do object-oriented, you get into situations where you think you're encapsulating something really well, but you're really not. You're bundling it up, and it's not obvious until later on in like the structure of the program that, oh, you made a mistake over here, so now you have to go and refactor that, and now you have to redo a lot of stuff because of implicit.
All right, so those are a lot of qualities of object-oriented programming. But what is the isness of object-oriented programming?
Like, I think object-oriented in and of itself as a concept is not bad, but it gets bad when it's implemented wrongly, which a lot of languages enables you to do very easily.
And what is functional programming?
Functional programming is more like mathematically speaking, like you give it inputs, not gonna mutate. That's the thing. Like objects, if you instantiate an object and you like say change your name to this, okay, you mutated that object now. In functional programming, you don't do that. You have immutability. So a function takes in inputs and returns outputs. It doesn't mutate a variable outside of its scope.
So what does immutability mean? Practically, what does that mean? We never get rid of old data? Or I don't understand.
No.
What is immutability?
Immutability just means that data doesn't change. You return a new copy of it.
Okay.
And again, that's the theory of it. In practice, computers do a lot of optimizations to do this. Like, if you have a large data structure and you want to change one little thing, yes, theoretically, you're going to return a new copy of that, but the compiler and everything makes it so that, oh, well, memory-wise, it's only this little piece that changes. But when you code and like execute the thing, then you can think of it as you get a completely new copy, you don't mutate, and then you don't have to worry about like, well, the same thing. Like if one function mutates an object, or a method in object-oriented programming terms, if a method mutates an object and another method mutates the same object, it depends, like what you get out at the end depends on the order that those two are done.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and if they are asynchronous, then you don't know if they will actually always finish in the same order every time.
And that's very messy.
Yes, that can lead you into things like, well, it worked last time, but not this time, so why the fuck does it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, functional programming lets you work better with that type of stuff.
Makes your code a bit more predictable.
Yeah.
So that brings us back to Niantic.
Oh, right. I tried to avoid it for a long time, but yeah, go ahead.
I remember you, Carlo. I have not lost Niantic. The point was, we got to sit and think about what AR is. AR will replace displays. I'm retracing where we went. We went to talk about the extracortical interfaces. Okay, one of the things that I realized that dawned on me a lot later than it should have, honestly. Like I feel a little dumb for not realizing this much earlier in our AR journey. But if AR is based on computer vision, then there's always a camera on when you're doing AR. And if you're positioning against a database that's not local, like if the data about the world does not live in your glasses, which of course it wouldn't be, that's way too much data to be living in your glasses, then that data is going to be on someone's internet somewhere, right? And someone's gonna see what we're seeing all the time. And like I didn't even fully realize this until after we had raised quite a bit of money into Auki. Like it took a while of being in this space to say like, hold on. There are consequences to our actions.
Who knew?
But that's the thing. I think that Niantic aren't thinking enough about the consequences of their actions. That's the charitable take. The not charitable take is that they are okay with that outcome. They see it as inevitable or they see it as desirable. Either way, they don't mind accelerating that outcome. They demonstrate with the technology that they build and push to market what they give away for free, what they don't give away for free. They signal, I feel, very clearly what kind of future they imagine. And they imagine a future where my glasses are positioned off of their back end. I think that's dystopian, Carlo. I think Niantic is doing something very misguided, and I hope to get Auki to a point of influence enough in the industry that we could convince the very talented people at Niantic, who many of them I'm sure are very excited about the future of AR, but also concerned about the things that we're concerned about, maybe make them build in more responsible ways. Like in one way, and I know I shouldn't say this as CEO, but as a human being, I feel that if Auki only manages to continue to be successful in our PR and maybe change the conversation just enough about privacy, that 30 years down the line things look a little bit different. A 1 degree change could make a big difference. I'd take that. Because if you accept that augmented reality is the future of language, then man, is this a moment in history, not just like of humanity, but in the history of life, literally, to put a finger on that scale. And we have to do that consciously.
Like, okay, so people complain about free speech on Twitter. And if speech is language, like you use language in your speech and it enables you to think, what does it mean if augmented reality is the future of language, that augmented reality is owned by a private corporation like Niantic? Your thoughts would be owned.
We've arrived at that already. We have that with the social media companies with algorithms that suck up our attention, and it forms addictive behaviors, and we lose agency in their presence, right? Like TikTok is a hypnotizing application, literally.
Yes.
Right? And it's very scary how the meme, capital M, is constructing itself into this vehicle that more and more is showing to me that, like, us human being individuals, we are just emergent properties of a bigger drama. Like, this will sound crazy, but if you think about it, I think you will have a hard time dismissing it, actually. Like, let's get philosophical.
Okay.
I am starting to believe, like, I can talk myself into it intellectually, but I don't feel it in my heart of hearts yet that it's like absolutely certainly true. But I feel this most probably true.
Hit me.
We don't know where our consciousness resides, other than if you sustain enough brain damage, consciousness seems to go away, right? But we don't know how to measure consciousness in any way at all, right? We don't know, we can't see if the lights are on or off. We can't see if the lights are on or off. So it could also be, in theory, I'm just throwing something out there that I'm not married to, just I think it's an illustrative picture, that when you sustain brain damage, what you did is you broke the TV's display, you didn't break the transceiver, right? Where did I want to go with this? What were we talking about?
We're talking about that people were emergence from...
Right, yes. So the craziest thing that I believe, here we go, is since we can't observe where our consciousness like truly resides, whether it's on or off, I don't have a good reason to dismiss the following. Memeplexes, like capitalism or 4chanism or whatever, any kind of memeplex is capable of also experiencing consciousness as an emergent property. The Selfish Gene, the book that coined the term meme, essentially, the red pill take of that book is that your consciousness is just an emergent property of a drama that's happening at the genetic level, right? The message of the Selfish Gene is that the gene is the center of the universe, man, right? Not you. And I don't know why that wouldn't also be true for memes. That we think that we are the thing that's being selected for, but we're not. And maybe that I see that selection and consciousness are not, they're not linked. These are two, I'm not making a connection there. I think it's possible that memes actually do have agency to the same extent that we have agency, that it experiences itself having agency. I mean, I clearly don't have free will, right? So maybe memes also don't have free will, but that, to me, I have no good reason to... Do you have a good reason to dismiss why capitalism might be conscious?
I haven't given it a lot of thought, so you kind of just sprung it on me here, but I mean... It doesn't feel like it, like intuitively. But like
it certainly doesn't.
Not a lot of things are intuitive, but it's still true. Or I would say, like, so how would that, because our consciousness, at least from what we know, expresses itself in us, like in what we do. What would be the expressions if capitalism, like, was conscious?
What we would observe, which I believe we do, right? What we would observe is that meme pools would try to defend themselves and usurp other memes and do the kinds of things that animals do in an ecosystem, right? You would have to look for, oh, here's a meme that just exposed a vulnerability. Now, predictably, this meme pool is going to respond, right? So, for example, just like what a theoretical vague prediction would be is, for example, oh, here's something that happened in this part of Twitter. Someone from this part of YouTube will certainly make a video about this now, right? And at our level, that is like, oh, that was just inspiration to, okay, but what does that mean, right? Because of all the thoughts that you can have, you only have the thoughts that you do, and you don't pick them. Not only do we not have free will, we don't have free thought, which is easy to demonstrate with just 30 seconds of meditation, right? If you just sit in stillness and observe your own thoughts, you notice that they appear from you don't know where, right? The thoughts come and then you perceive them. Just like everything else, your thoughts are a happening. Nuts.
Yeah.
I shouldn't go so deep down those rabbit holes, because then I lose where I was.
No, but it's an interesting concept, but it's very hard to, like, okay, so intuitively, but that's just because the level, like, okay, I would stop at, like, well, when you say, like, capitalism defends itself from different, like, aggressive other memes or something like that, you could say that that's just, like, that's us doing this. That's not the memeplex of capitalism that's doing that. But I don't know. I can't prove it.
To me, it holds explanatory power to say that, okay, but the thoughts that appear in our mind are clearly influenced by the language around us, like by things you say to me impact my next thought. Surely you concede this, right? My thought world is different depending on if you speak or if you don't, right? So language impacts us very, very deeply. We are not the authors of our own thoughts. We're not the authors of our own language. It's almost like we are just transistors in a brain. Okay, what happens in a brain, right? There are neurons, they send electric signals that, there are not a lot of bytes in those signals, I imagine, right? Whatever kind of computer the brain is, it's partially built from sending information from one place to another place, and there seems somehow emergent property of that consciousness. We have no idea how, right?
So you're meaning that the language that we speak are the firing of
Yes.
the synapses?
Yes, absolutely. Like, if you take a deep breath and just look at the world, I think you can see it.
Yeah, I do see it. It's just really hard to accept. I understand where you're going with this. It's very okay. So what you need is not just explanatory power. You need predictive power.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel that part of my craft and my focus on memetics I predict which ideas will stick.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My toolkit is this. In a very ham-fisted way, because it's hard to know, like, how do you construct experiments in the dimension that you're not in?
Yeah.
Right? How do you perform experiments in the dimension that you're not in? I feel that it is sufficient evidence if you make a prediction that, for example, now that Elon did this, someone from the left will say this absolutely, and someone from the right will not definitely, because like even across millions of people, those thoughts, like the thoughts are not going to manifest that way. No one's going to randomly have the thought to do this other unpredictable thing. Bernays, right? Edward Bernays, Freud's nephew, he realized that groups of people were easier to manipulate than individuals. Groups of people are easier to manipulate than individuals. Maybe because it's easier to operate in the abstraction of what a group of synapses does rather than try to do surgery on a synapse. Maybe that's just not very easy. But once you start moving groups around at that level of abstraction,
it makes sense, because if you're just influencing one synapse, like the signal strength it has to have to all the other synapses to get them to fire, it's got to be more powerful than if you can just control the cluster.
Also, I believe that Edward Bernays was saying that groups are easier to, manipulate, essentially because an individual within a group seeks acceptance, right? So when somebody in the group, takes an action or says something that seems plausible, people are likely to go along with it, even if they don't fully understand, as long as it sounds convincing, right?
Yeah, it's also like they did the experiments where they showed people some lines or something, and 4 out of 5 people were actors, and they they had agreed that everyone should pick this line, even though it's obviously not the longest one.
You forgot to give the context here that they were asked to rate them by length.
Oh, that was the full
You just said
context?
they were looking at lines.
Oh, I don't...
Yeah, so the experiment is they ask people to identify the shortest straw.
Oh, okay.
Which line is the shortest? And then the actors would pick one that wasn't the shortest.
Yeah.
And see how often will the person that is not an actor stick with what is objectively true. And they also asked afterwards, if they had been honest, how they felt, blah blah blah. To also, I don't remember the outcome of that part, but also asked the question, did it impact your perception or did you lie?
Yeah, I just remember he brought it up.
It's cool that you know Bernays, Doogie.
Yeah, of course. He's the godfather of public relations, right? He essentially took the term propaganda and the concept of propaganda, and he turned it into what we know today as public relations. I mean,
I think he's an OG memeticist, absolutely.
An OG what, sorry?
Memeticist, like memetic engineer.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that term. I'm gonna look it up right now.
It's you won't find much. If I'm lucky, you'll find us. So meme theory Have you heard of meme theory before, Doogie?
I have not. No.
Okay, so back in 1979, before funny cat pictures, the word meme was coined. This was a long time ago. This, was before funny cat pictures. It was maybe before the first cat. 79 was a long time ago. Richard Dawkins wrote this book called The Selfish Gene. And in The Selfish Gene, he explained the neo-Darwinian perspective of evolution. The neo-Darwinian perspective of evolution. And that is that survival of the fittest is not best understood at the level of the species. It's not best understood at the level of the tribe. And, surprisingly, it's not even best understood at the level of the individual. It's best understood at the level of the gene. Survival of the fittest is a battle that is playing out between genes. That's the main battlefront.
Okay.
And in this book, Dawkins asked a thought experiment. He had a thought experiment. What if culture and behavior was also subject to natural selection? If only the fittest behaviors spread, if only the fittest cultures succeed.
Okay.
And he invented the word meme back then in this book in 1979 to have an analog to a gene. A gene is the smallest unit of biological expression, and a meme was supposed to be its counterpart for behavior. So meme theory is this idea that there are gene analogs, memes, that are competing to be the fittest in an ecosystem of other memes. And in a way, the memes, biological creatures, they live off of photosynthesis, they eat each other, but memes live in the substrate of communication.
And ideas.
Yes. So what we were talking about before, when I said like this is the craziest thing that I might believe, is that big meme pools, big clusters of memes, like capitalism or Catholicism or some other ism on a C. I should prepare a third there. That would be good. May actually experience consciousness. That even though, you should also load the scaffolding, I guess, every time about we don't know where consciousness sits in the brain.
The discussion we had before was like, we've been talking about this a lot, so there's a lot of scaffolding around there, but it's very interesting. Meme theory in general is like, for me, not a mimeticist, really, but it's like the battleground of ideas. Different ideas grab a hold of certain people. Why? How do they evolve? Why do they evolve? Like, religion, for example, like different religions are different memes that spread, evolve. Like, they have to fight for their survival in our heads, and they spread through language.
Yes, they want to be spoken.
That's a very interesting concept. And definitely, I did not know about meme. I didn't even know how to pronounce it.
Meme theory. Just meme
theory. Yes. Okay. So I was not familiar with this concept, but it kind of makes sense, right? Like when you look at, for example, even in the former tribes of Africa or former cultures in South America, these cultures were essentially, and it's just to say that it also kind of manifests in the physical world, right? Like one culture versus another to achieve domination. And if you look at also colonialism of the British Empire, they would export their culture, right? And it was better for them to absorb another culture into their culture and teach them their ways and to subdue them by force, right?
An interesting example of this at play, at how at the culture level you can make predictions, actually. Let's imagine we were space aliens and we arrive at Earth and we send down our space intelligence agency to watch Earth and give us a report before we decide what to do, right? And the space intelligence agency comes back and says, like a third of the world's population are following some kind of Abrahamic religion. It's like, okay, what's that? Well, we don't have a lot of data about it yet, but we know that there are 3 main groups. One of them has 2 billion, another one has 2 billion, and the third one has 20 million, right? That's a much smaller group. Which group is it that's so much smaller? Judaism is a lot smaller than Christianity and Islam, because Judaism, as a meme, does not have the instruction to proselytize, right? Yeah. Christianity and Islam are built on, like from a meme perspective, they are built on the propagation of itself. It's a mimetic vehicle that eats. No judgment, it's what it does, right? But Judaism isn't. Judaism, and therefore Judaism is so much smaller. And if you would know this from first principles if you just approached with meme theory in mind, right? You could also, here's a prediction I can make. Oh, really? Really? They must have, all the major religions must have a holy book. You cannot get a meme pool that's that big of a population, you know, with the generation lengths that we have, blah, blah, blah. The mutation rate is too great. So if there is not a written instruction, you can't reach such saturation. That level of saturation of meme pools, like, is evidence of writing. Like, and you would be able to predict that just from meme theory. So I think it's very powerful. I think it's science.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so what is the code of memes? Genes are written in DNA. What is the code?
I mean, DNA are arguably a subset of memes. DNA are arguably a subset of memes. And memes, the way that they express now, is the first time that they can move in just this information substrate, right? A meme is an idea that gets copied. Not all thoughts that you have in your mind are memes, right? What makes a meme is propagation, right? What makes a meme is propagation. Now, if you feel already as an engineer, well, that feels inelegant, right? Well, cool, then we know what the meme is then. That the meme is information. And if that is the case, then DNA is a subset of memes.
Okay, fine.
I've had this conversation before.
Fine.
So.
You'll win that one. Fine. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Why was that important?
So, like, how? I'm just wondering, like, what it is actually. Is it just information? Is it just vibrations of atoms eventually?
No, that's also just a medium. You know, what is a wave?
Yeah, but where does it live then? Like, where does it come from? Come on, Nils, answer me. Where does consciousness come from? Why don't you have this answer?
But you're not just asking where's consciousness. You're asking where does information live?
Yeah.
You know, where does information go when the sun sets?
Yeah.
Yeah, that just seems like completely beyond the scope of what a human brain can even think of. But clearly we observe that the information is there, you know, almost like, do you know the book Flatlander or the story Flatlander?
Yes.
Yeah. We see memes have this Flatlander imprint. And that's increasingly how I see the world, right? I look at mimetic agency. What does the meme want? And one... And you shouldn't find this convincing, but you will.
Okay.
Right? And I find it convincing. I know I shouldn't, but I find it convincing.
The bubble
If
of
it
your
is the
shape
case,
that surrounds
right,
you from the soles
then
of your feet right up
there's
to above your head.
Auki is at the epicenter of something very interesting at the mimetic scale. Because Auki
You
is
see this bubble
like
of
the
light
privacy
really
meme
strong
pool,
and
and
free
like it's a
from
bunch of
harms
meme
or
pools that are about to coagulate into something quite powerful, right? And if the meme is conscious and has agency and
The
can
bubble of
act
light
with
is opaque
agency,
on
it
the
should
outer
appear to us that a
layer
lot
where
of
nothing
favorable
but pure
coincidences
energies
happen.
can enter your field.
It should appear to us that, like, for some reason, it's very easy for us
The
to get
more
in
you
touch with
visualize and
people from
practice,
exactly
stronger
the
this
industries
bubble
we
of
need to get in
protection
touch
will
with.
become.
And they are very amenable to us, and they just happen to like us in those industries, right? So if it is the case that
Visualize
someone
now
working at a
within this bubble
telco
of
will
protection
like me better than
other
someone working
layers
in
of
fashion,
light.
that's evidence that the meme is acting.
Yeah,
Visualize
okay,
a
now I
line
know
close
why
to
you
you.
said that I shouldn't find this convincing, but yeah, it is. It is
Look around, right? How many favorable
See this
coincidences?
green
You know,
energy
how many
completely
conversations did I
surrounding
bother
you.
having yesterday at the party,
Yeah.
right? Like, the first meaningful
This
conversation
vibration
is like, okay,
is a physical
do you want to have a
emotional
free
feeling.
exhibition space?
Yeah.
Things
You
like
can
that
bring
shouldn't be
energy into a
happening
field
if it wasn't
anytime
mimetically
you're
ordained.
healing from
Yeah, I
someone.
mean, yeah, we'll see.
So I have two questions. Actually, you can continue, Nils.
Visualize now
No, please, go ahead.
another layer.
Yeah. So my question is concerning a meme, like a meme, right? Is essentially it's almost like a living database of information, right? And essentially, I'm curious. Are you familiar with like the concept of the Akashic Library, or the Akashic Archives?
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. Feel free to explain it to me.
If you practice
So
visualizing
essentially,
colour,
it's
you will
the
find you attract
theory
more love in
that,
your life.
and Nikola
as
Tesla,
others
I
will
believe,
mirror
was a
love back to
believer
you.
in this. It's the theory that all information that humans collectively know and will ever know in the future is held in a higher dimension. So everything that we will ever possibly know, and all knowledge, I suppose, in the universe is all held in one space. And as we learn things, as we understand them, it's not truly our understanding, it's that we are unlocking the path in this archive or library to gain access to this information. So
it's like Platonic ideals almost?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna pull that up and I'm gonna look.
Where the
But,
information is.
Okay.
So
Doogie had the answer to where is the information?
Yeah, from
Thank
my
you, Doogie.
very quick.
you're welcome. And
All right.
so
Tonight
my
has been productive.
my question, my second point of query is, it's almost like these memes are living organisms, right? Because you said one of the key things they have is the ability to propagate itself, and that's kind of a feature of a living thing, right? The ability to, want to stay alive, right? So, yeah, it's like I find it super interesting, and how it can apply to many different things. Like I was saying, like colonialism, right? And exporting your culture, and how, for example, you gave the example of the Abrahamic religion, how Christianity and Islam, it has in there that you should I don't even know how to pronounce it, professionalize, or essentially try to convert others into your religion, and it's almost like a survival mechanism, right?
What I feel happened, if you look at history, again from a mimetic point of view, was the meme of proselytation of a written instruction, like a written instruction that contains spread me, right? That invention of like, I'm gonna write a piece of paper that tells the world to make more copies of this piece of paper and to give it to other people.
It's the first replicator.
I mean, DNA is the first replicator.
Okay. Isn't meme
Mhm.
the first replicator, if that is if what you said before is true, then the meme is the first replicator.
But
Anyway,
yeah, so from a point of history, like that's when I read Guns, Germs, and Steel, I felt this is missing. Actually, like it's very interesting what Diamond says about how different resources were available. Like absolutely that played a big part, but you still have to explain, why did Europe go out and bash people on the head and China didn't? Well, because that wasn't where the meme of let's go proselytize emerged.
Yeah. And I mean,
This is
that's not the only way a meme survives or tries to survive. Like some memes become insular, like they try to protect the group by doing that. Others became expansionist by trying to expand the group.
They often do combinations of it, like creationism, right? You build up these like creationism is an interesting expression of meme pools that invent the defense mechanism of dismissing all criticism as bad faith, right? And creationism is not the only thing that does that. Certain kinds of right-wing extremism is like that. Certain kinds of left-wing extremism are like that, where there are these built-in, from a memetic point of view, perfectly designed defense systems, right? Of course, the meme will want to, like, the meme of leftism will want to evolve the dismissal of information sources that propagate bad memes for them, right? So, of course, leftism will arrive at, but that's Fox News. Like, that's so predictable because that's what the meme will want to do. And the right is going to do the exact same thing. Like, but that's whatever thing.
Liberal media, something.
I don't know what they complain about. Yeah, that's just the liberal media. Absolutely. And what that does is it protects us from being hijacked by another meme.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's sort of like, what's the word when you're confronted with an idea? Like you experience some sort of like, not cognitive dissonance, that is what you feel when you don't do that. Like, it's hard. You can feel when you're confronted with a fact that conflicts with something you believe, or that the meme that you are currently being possessed by, like when you have to reevaluate something, that's hard for your brain to do.
When the memetic software
Isn't that-
is a bug.
Yeah.
cognitive dissonance, no?
Yeah, it is
Is
cognitive.
it cognitive
It's
dissonance?
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, so like,
Yeah, I believe
that's
so.
really hard.
It's like your brain has like a defense mechanism where essentially, if something contradicts a previously held belief, like your brain fights against wanting to understand that.
Yeah, it like seg faults and just doesn't consider it. It's just like
Exactly.
everything makes perfect
Exactly.
sense, but not really.
And like the more I hear you guys speak, it almost seems like memes are a parasite, right? Because essentially it wants to reproduce itself in others, and it protects the current carrier, right? Either through like a set of rules. I know, like, for example, in Islam, one of the reasons they did not, or that in the Quran, it banishes eating pork and things of that nature. Whenever you look at these countries, pork carried a lot of disease, right? Back then, especially. So it wasn't necessarily like a holier than thou, like, we don't eat pork. It was actually to protect
That
the
meme was
health.
fit in that environment.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's,
But it's like
this is
memes-
super interesting. I don't know, Nils, would you be able to provide maybe like a list of resources where me or anybody else would be able to read more into this? Because I find it extremely interesting. I'd love to learn more.
Absolutely.
Thank you
I
very
am
much.
gonna recommend a TED Talk by Daniel Dennett called Dangerous Ideas. I'm posting it here in the chat. That's a great place to start. That is a great place to start. But of course, the book by Richard Dawkins, The Selfish Gene, at least the chapter about memes, but honestly, the whole book is very, very good. Where should we recommend? I mean, you should read some of my stuff, man. I write about this. There are not that.
Do you have
many
a blog?
Yeah, go to auki.medium.com, and we do some writing on there. And I am working on a video series where one of the episodes of this video series will be explaining memetics and the perspective of memetic agency.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would definitely recommend starting with Daniel Dennett's TED Talk. It's a really good summary and leaves you with a lot of very interesting questions. That's
cool. Pulling it up right now. And The Selfish Gene, that's a book, correct?
That's a book from 1979, but it's still relevant. It's still good.
Cool.
Still sounds great.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, if you search for meme theory instead of just meme, right? Because if you search for meme, you'll just find funny pictures, unfortunately. Is that the meme obfuscating its existence from us?
Yeah.
Throwing up a smoke screen?
Yeah, like when we met 7 years ago, we talked about this, and I have the exact same, I was like, I need to know more about this, and you're like, yeah, this is just my thoughts, been mulling around in my head for a bit. I'm like, what? Damn it.
I will. One day.
But yeah.
This is.
Memes are
I mean, I've never heard about this meme theory. I've never heard about it up until today, and it's quite eye-opening, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence that the meme theory and AR and all of these things are coming to us. I think that's what the meme wants. I think that's what the meme wants. That's also why it's easy for me to stay humble, right? Because no matter how successful we're getting,
it's just the memes want.
It's just memetically ordained, man. I'm just riding this wave.
You're just a tool of the meme, right?
Yeah, just a finger on the hand.
Conduit. Yeah.
But
pretty cool, man.
That's what's so great about it too. Like this is an invitation to everybody. This is an invitation. Because really, what it means is if you embrace the perspective of memetic engineering and everything that comes with that, if you sit with it, right? If you sit and meditate on it, if you just embrace that, there's no reason to listen to me anymore or anything like this. This is an open source perspective you can have on the world, and you can go out and do things with it. It's a perspective that works, that helps you connect with people, that helps you build things, that help you form more healthy habits. Like, it's not a panacea, it doesn't fix everything, but it's definitely the most helpful pillar I have in my life, like, for sure. It does so much heavy lifting for this little meat bag. To have the memetic perspective. On that note, maybe we should.
And this has been the meme cast.
This has been the meme cast.
Nils.
Oh yeah, actually, that's one of the better resources. You should check out the podcast I do with my good friend and co-founder of Matterless, Damir. We have a podcast called the Cyberdelic Podcast, and we did at least one episode that's entirely about memes.
Cool. Cyberdelic?
Yeah, the Cyberdelic Podcast.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Oh no, thank you for forgiving me for just giving a self-plug here when you ask for resources on meme theory. But we're trying to hog this space, Auki Labs is a memetic engineering company.
That happens to be AR.
Yeah, because that's the next
Yeah.
the next transmission medium, right?
Yeah. So is this just the meme wanting to get a more efficient way of transmitting
Yes.
itself?
Yes. The throughput between the transistors, this is the next upgrade.
Amplify it.
Yes, this is what it wants, right? It is time to amplify. Think of the cool software they'll be able to build.
Yeah.
The memes.
Yes, but like, there's so many people that it's not gonna resonate with them because it's like telling them like, not only you don't have free will, but you are acting only in the interest of larger scale things.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean that doesn't seem to have hurt like Christianity and Islam all that
No,
much.
but
There is an Almighty God.
yes, but that's the point. Like, I feel like religion is trying, like, okay, they put a veil over it for our tiny human brains to be able to like wrap their head around. But this is like pulling off that. They're like, this is how it actually works.
Maybe this is the meme that will serve as an interface that allows all of those toxic memes to become something more healthy and secular.
Maybe.
Maybe embracing a memetic perspective helps you shed the supernatural and instead just stay humble and reverent for the larger memetic forces that carry us through ebbs and flows.
Yeah. All praise the memes.
All praise the memes. Yes, this is the TED Talk. And yes, there's the Cyberdelic podcast as well. It's so low effort, the podcast. I do think it's interesting to listen to, but it's so low effort that I don't know which episode is about memes. But I know that one of them is. Hopefully it's labeled properly.
Yeah, it's the first one. The first
Great.
one and is labeled the
That makes so
perspective.
much sense. Man, yeah, that makes so much sense. Of course it was the first one, because that's where the story starts. I unironically think that the best way to get someone to really appreciate what Auki is doing is you start with memetics. It's a long journey. You have to be very skillful to keep their attention all the way to the end. But if you make it from memetics to Auki, you will have a fan.
It's like I didn't like think about this too much, but Train Tracks was just you wanted to build something to try to study and like analyze the memes because the software was built to study behavior.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but not only that. Here's how Train Tracks is related to Auki Labs, right? Here's where I find stuff that I can carry from the old startup. One of the things that I thought was very interesting with behavioral analytics and big data and data-driven design is that, like, oh my god, the memetic software, you know, the higher abstractions, they're going to be able to make much better decisions. This is super, super cool. Like, if we give the ability to make data-driven decisions directly to, like, the transistors, directly to the nodes, like, that's amazing. That's going to have a huge impact on our civilization. And yeah, like, to me, the inner mission of Train Tracks was like, let's build something for the meme. And that's also what Auki Labs is. Patrick saw it immediately. He was just like, oh, he said mention is back.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's even older than that. Like, mention came up with Train Tracks as something to do for the meme.
Yeah.
So when I told Patrick about the pivot from Minotaur to Auki, it's like, mention is back. It's like, yes, it is. It's time for memetic engineering.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Do you remember, I think this was with you and Ted in the red room in our old office, right? I made the point, we were talking about, you know, like, who's going to be the most powerful person in the future. Is it going to be Elon Musk? You know, because he had just, like, started announcing, you know, he's going to go to space, blah, blah, blah. And I made the point that, you know, there is a way to be more powerful than to send the rocket that goes to Mars, and that is to have authored the ideas of the crew that go there.
I don't remember this specifically, but
That is worth thinking about, right? The memes that leave the planet, those are the things you want to have authored. Those are the things you want to put in place. You know, like if you're thinking about, you know, this is where, no, I'm not gonna go there.
yeah, you gotta save some for the next.
Yeah, save some for our next hangout. Denocoil is on Netflix? Shut up! No way! That's amazing. Oh my god, I'm gonna rewatch Denocoil.
Awesome.
Denocoil is really good. All right, it's very late here. We're gonna head out. If you have more questions, feel free to write them in the chat. But we're gonna sign off this first experimental open house. Remember, since you were here, you can send me a message. I'll remember your names. You can get a free T-shirt to stay warm in winter. All right, I'll see you guys.
Thanks a lot for your time, Nils and JB. Appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
See ya.
All right, and now we